Sam had always believed Mammoth Cave would be just another adventure. A weekend of headlamps and laughter, something to check off a list. Underground, though, that confidence unraveled fast. The silence felt deliberate, heavy enough to press against his chest, and every echo twisted their voices into something unfamiliar. There were four of them: Sam, Luke, Jared, and Ben, moving deeper when Ben wandered ahead as he vanished around a bend. At first, no one worried. Ben always did this. But when minutes passed and he didn't return, the cave seemed to hold its breath. Then a sound drifted through the tunnels, faint and distant, shaped perfectly like Ben's voice. It wasn't calling for help. It was calm, and it was coming from the wrong direction. They arrived earlier than planned, the kind of early that leaves too much time to notice details that shouldn't matter. The parking lot was already warm, heat rising off the pavement in thin, wavering lines. The air felt thick and unmoving, heavy enough to cling to skin. Luke struggled with the ticket machine, under his breath as it refused to take his card. Jared leaned against the car, fanning his shirt and about the humidity, saying the cave was supposed to be cool and this already felt like a mistake. Ben barely stood still. He paced between them and the trailhead map, tracing routes with his finger, talking about how Mammoth Cave was the longest known cave system in the world, how passages connected in ways people still didn't fully understand. He sounded almost like the cave was late meeting him. Families passed by on the path toward the visitor center. Children ran ahead, shoes slapping against the pavement, voices sharp and high. Parents called after them, following close behind. Sam noticed the way the sound dropped off as they moved farther from the lot. It didn't fade naturally. It stopped, like something cut it short. Once he noticed it, he couldn't stop listening for it, the way noise seemed to die faster than it should have. The entrance to the cave came into view between the trees. It wasn't dramatic. No towering mouth or rushing air, just a dark opening carved into the hillside, framed by stone, railings, and warning signs. It looked inactive, almost unfinished. Sam had the strange impression that it wasn't empty, only quiet on purpose. He couldn't explain why the thought unsettled him. A park ranger passed them, reminding a nearby group to stay together once they were underground. His voice was calm and practiced, like a line repeated too often to carry urgency anymore. Sam watched him walk away and wondered how many times he'd said the same thing to people who didn't listen. When their tour group was called, they fell into line and followed the ranger down the path. With every step closer to the entrance, the air changed. The heat drained away quickly, replaced by a cold, damp chill that crawled over Sam's arms. The temperature drop felt abrupt, unnatural. Sunlight reached only a few feet into the cave before bending and disappearing completely, swallowed by darkness that reflected nothing back. Sam slowed at the threshold without meaning to. The quiet inside wasn't the absence of sound. It pressed in, dense and deliberate, like the cave was waiting. Ben didn't hesitate. He stepped forward first, laughing under his breath, and the darkness took him instantly. Luke followed, then Jared. Sam went last, feeling the light behind him shrink too fast. The entrance vanished, and with it, the world they'd come from. The tour started slowly, almost deceptively calm. The path sloped downward at an easy angle, wide enough that no one felt cramped yet, lit by low yellow lights bolted into the rock. The lights didn't reach far. They left most of the cave in shadow, turning the walls into uneven shapes that shifted whenever someone moved. Sam stayed near the back of the group, listening to the ranger talk about rock formations and early explorers, but the words slid past him without sticking. The deeper they went, the harder it became to focus on anything but the cave itself. Sound behaved strangely underground. Voices carried farther than they should have, then disappeared completely, cut off mid-echo. Footsteps bounced back in uneven rhythms, sometimes delayed, sometimes overlapping, until Sam couldn't tell which steps were his and which belonged to someone else. Once, he slowed down just to be sure he wasn't following the sound of someone behind him instead of the person in front. Ben got restless fast. He kept drifting ahead whenever the ranger turned away, ducking under rope barriers to shine his flashlight down side passages that weren't part of the tour. Luke snapped at him to knock it off, his voice sharper than usual. Ben just grinned and came back, only to do it again a few minutes later. Jared joked about Ben getting lost, but the joke landed wrong. There was an edge to it that made Sam uncomfortable. The cave didn't feel like a place that would give warnings before punishing the stakes. It felt like it wouldn't notice at all. The farther down they went, the more the cave seemed to close in. The walls narrowed, the ceiling dipped lower, and the air grew colder and heavier. Moisture clung to the stone, and the smell changed, earthy and stale, like something sealed away for too long. Sam became aware of his breathing, how loud it sounded inside his own head. The ranger stopped the group in a wide chamber and talked about how easy it was to become disoriented underground. He explained how sound could mislead people, how echoes could come from the wrong direction, how some people followed them and ended up miles from where they thought they were. Sam barely listened to the details. He was watching Ben. Ben wasn't paying attention at all. He stood at the edge of the group, staring into a narrow tunnel off to the side. No lights reached into it. The darkness there looked thicker somehow, like it absorbed what little light brushed against it. Ben leaned forward slightly, like he was listening for something no one else could hear. When the ranger started moving again, the group followed. Sam took a step, then another, and felt the space beside him stay empty. He turned, expecting to see Ben a few paces back, maybe crouched with his camera. Ben wasn't there. Sam slowed, scanning the chamber. At the far edge, just before the darkness swallowed it completely, he caught a glimpse of Ben's flashlight beam slipping around the corner of a passage the tour wasn't taking. Then it was gone. For a short while, no one said anything. Sam assumed Ben was still somewhere nearby, maybe crouched behind a rock with that stupid grin, waiting to jump out once they noticed. He'd done it before. It was just another one of his things. Sam kept walking, half expecting to hear Ben's footsteps rushing up behind them. Luke was the one who stopped. He slowed, then turned, shining his flashlight back toward the chamber they'd just left. "Where'd Ben go?" he asked. His voice echoed strangely, stretching out before snapping back at them in pieces. Jared shrugged. "Probably taking pictures, or messing around." He tried to sound casual, but his eyes followed Luke's light as it swept over the walls and empty path behind them. Luke called Ben's name, not loud, just enough to test it. The sound carried farther than it should have, bending around corners Sam couldn't see. When the echo came back, it didn't sound right. Too thin, too distant. Then nothing at all. Luke called again, louder this time. "Ben!" The ranger noticed and walked back, irritation plain on his face. He asked what was wrong, already sounding like he knew the answer. Luke explained, pointing back toward the side passage. The ranger said people wandered off all the time, that Ben would catch up at the next stop. They weren't supposed to wait. The tour needed to keep moving. Sam felt something twist in his chest. The cave didn't feel like a place where people simply caught up. Luke argued, his voice rising, but the ranger was firm. Stay on the path. Stay with the group. Ben would be fine. Reluctantly, the tour moved on, leaving the three of them standing there longer than Sam was comfortable with. That was when they heard it. "Guys?" Sam felt the sound more than he heard it, like it pressed directly against his ribs. It was Ben's voice, normal, calm, not scared, not out of breath, not the voice of someone lost underground. Luke spun around, flashlight jerking toward the tunnels behind them. The voice hadn't come from there. Jared frowned. That didn't come from the right place." "Guys," the voice said again, quieter now. "I'm over here." Luke didn't hesitate. He stepped off the marked path, ducking under the rope barrier and moving toward a narrow tunnel that wasn't lit. The ranger started to protest, but Sam was already following. Jared cursed and went after them. The lights from the main path vanished almost immediately. The yellow glow faded behind them, replaced by the dull white beams of their flashlights cutting through uneven stone. The silence pressed in fast, thick and heavy, broken only by the scrape of boots and the sound of their breathing. Luke called Ben's name as they moved, trying to keep his voice steady. Each time the echo came back wrong. Sometimes it sounded closer than it should have. Sometimes it stretched out so far it barely sounded like words. Then the voice answered, "I'm right here." It came from deeper in the tunnel, calm and patient, like it knew they were already coming. The tunnel narrowed faster than Sam expected, the rope barrier and the last hint of Tor lighting disappearing behind them after only a few steps. The walls pressed closer, rough and damp, the floor uneven beneath their boots. The air felt colder here, thicker somehow, like it had been sealed away for too long. Sam became aware of his breathing, how loud it sounded inside his head, how it seemed to echo back from places he couldn't see. Luke moved ahead, flashlight cutting across the stone as he called Ben's name, trying to keep his voice steady. Each time he spoke, the echo came back wrong, sometimes too fast, sometimes not at all, and once Sam was sure it answered from a direction Luke hadn't aimed the light. They reached a wider chamber where the ceiling dipped low and the walls curved inward, jagged and close. Luke stopped and scanned the space, frustration creeping into his voice as he called out again. Jared tried to joke, said Ben was probably hiding somewhere waiting to scare them, but the laugh died almost immediately, swallowed by the cave. Then they heard Ben again. "Hey!" The voice was faint but clear. Sam turned toward it instinctively, then froze. It hadn't come from ahead or behind. Luke swept the flashlight across the walls, trying to trace it, but the direction kept slipping away. It sounded close, like Ben was just around the corner, but the chamber was empty. They moved anyway, slower now. The floor dipped suddenly and Luke stopped short, raising his hand. A hole opened in the rock a few feet ahead, narrow but deep, its edges worn smooth. Luke knelt carefully and leaned forward, angling the flashlight down into it. He went quiet. The silence stretched too long. Sam's heart began to pound. "What?" he asked, his voice sounding wrong in the space. Luke didn't answer right away. When he finally turned, his face looked pale and strained, like he was forcing himself not to fall apart. "He's down there," Luke said. Sam felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" Luke swallowed. "He fell. I think he broke his neck." Sam didn't look down. He didn't need to. The cave felt heavier, like something had shifted. Jared stepped back, shaking his head, whispering no under his breath. Then the voice came again. "Guys?" It was louder this time, clearer, and it didn't come from the pit. Jared spun around, anger cutting through the fear. "That's not funny! Knock it off!" A soft laugh echoed back, low and wrong, sliding through the chamber from somewhere deeper. Luke backed away from the hole, shaking his head. "That's not him," he said. "That's not Ben." No one argued. Panic rose fast, voices overlapping. Jared said he was going back for help. Luke said they couldn't leave Ben there. Sam didn't know what he wanted, only that the cave had gone quiet again, the kind of quiet that felt like listening. Somewhere in the dark, Ben's voice called out once more, calm and patient, like it knew exactly where they were. They didn't follow Jared. The sound of his footsteps faded faster than Sam expected, swallowed by the cave until it was impossible to tell how far away he was. Luke stood still for a moment, staring down the tunnel like he might change his mind, then turned away from the pit. "We should go," he said. "Now." They moved quickly but carefully, staying close, flashlights shaking in their hands. Sam kept expecting to hear Jared calling back to them, or Ben's voice again, but there was nothing, only their breathing and the scrape of boots against stone. The tunnel felt longer on the way back, Ben's sharper, the floor more uneven than before. Sam tripped once and barely caught himself, his heart hammering as the darkness pressed in from all sides. When they finally saw light ahead, faint and yellow, relief hit him so hard his knees almost gave out. They found Jared near the edge of the main tunnel. At first, Sam thought he'd fallen. He was lying on his side, flashlight still on, the beam pointed uselessly at the wall. Luke jogged ahead, already calling his name, already kneeling beside him. Sam knew before Luke touched him. Jared's face was broken in, blood smeared into the stone beneath his head. There wasn't a clear place where the injuries started or ended. Luke sat back hard, shaking his head over and over, whispering no. Then, Jared spoke. "Come on," the voice said from somewhere behind them. Sam turned too fast and nearly fell. The sound came from a narrow side passage, dark and unlit. A shape stood just beyond the reach of the flashlights, pale enough to catch the edges of the beam. It was wrong. Too tall. Limbs stretched too long, skin tight and colorless, like it had never seen light. Its eyes were flat and black, reflecting nothing. It smiled, and it laughed in Jared's voice. They ran. The thing followed. Sam could hear it moving fast and uneven, scraping against the stone, never breathing. Luke stumbled and went down hard. Sam turned just in time to see the thing grab Luke's leg and start dragging him backward. Sam didn't think. He aimed the flashlight straight at its face. The reaction was instant. The thing hissed and recoiled, shielding its eyes, retreating into the dark with impossible speed. Sam grabbed Luke and pulled, and they ran. They didn't stop until the air changed, until warmth hit Sam's face and the entrance came into view. That was when it dropped from above. Luke never screamed. He didn't get the chance. Sam ran. He didn't stop until he was outside, gasping, sunlight burning his eyes. He stayed there, shaking, listening. Somewhere inside the cave, Luke called out once, soft and broken. Sam didn't turn back. Sam gave his statement 3 times. Each version sounded worse than the last. He stuck to the same story. Someone in the cave, an attack, panic, confusion. The officers nodded, wrote things down, exchanged looks when they thought he wasn't paying attention. They searched the cave for days. They found Ben at the bottom of the pit. They didn't find Luke or Jared. Eventually, people stopped asking questions, but Sam could tell no one really believed him. Weeks passed, then months. Life moved on in ways that felt wrong. Sam avoided anything dark, slept with lights on, kept noise playing at night so the silence wouldn't creep in. Sometimes, just before sleep, he heard his phone buzz and thought about checking it, convinced he'd see Luke's name on the screen. He never did. Once, late at night, the power went out. The apartment went dark and quiet all at once, and in that stillness, Sam heard it. Soft, familiar, coming from somewhere just out of sight. "Come on," the voice said. Sam didn't answer. He never does.